I'm Chad from Autel Diagnostics, and we are here to talk about the IM series from Autel Tools. These are going to be your tools for key programming and diagnostics. So I'm your host, I'm Chad Schnitz, and a little bit about me. I actually do a lot of the training and videos for the Autel YouTube channel. And one of the things that I did as a fun project was to try and take two Chevy Volts and rebuild them into one, and that's actually the car that I have in the booth, and I'm using it as my daily driver. So if you ever wanted to test your skills, I recommend go buying a hybrid car and trying to put them together into one. It's quite an experience. But I am the National Sales Manager for Strategic Accounts, and I take care of a lot of projects from the Autel side of the world, and I have been with the key programming side since its inception, and thanks to the locksmiths in the industry and for a lot of the feedback that we've been getting and improvements we've been making to the tool, and that is actually how we came to the IM608 PRO that you're seeing now. So we have to lay the groundwork a little bit. We got to lay the groundwork to where we are and where we came from. That way I can kind of take everything and put it back together at the end and make it all fit. The Autel key programming tools started out with the IM508 and the IM608. The new IM608 PRO will completely replace the IM608. Now, if you're an IM608 owner, don't worry. We have a way that you can now upgrade your IM608 to add the Pro functions that we're going to cover later on in this presentation. So if you already own an IM608, don't worry, I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to start with the IM508. So the IM508 is based on a smaller tablet. That smaller tablet has the ability to do read and clear codes in all modules, live data, and graphing. Now you might think to yourself, well, why do I need to read and clear codes in all modules? Well, it gives us the ability to scan a vehicle before we do anything to it, to make sure that all the systems are communicating and that there are no major issues before we try and program keys to a vehicle. So that tool gives you the ability to do that. It does also have some service function resets, like electronic parking brakes or battery management reset. So if a battery has been replaced in that car before you got there, you have the ability now to reset that system in that vehicle for that new battery. The European cars do require a lot more EEPROM functionality, and the IM508 has the ability to do that as far as software goes, but does not have the hardware with it, which I'll show you how we can add that later on. So in its current state, the IM508 does agent and domestic vehicles, and it does have smart mode. So smart mode is going to be our guided mode. It's going to take us through that process. If we're new to key programming and we don't know all the systems and we don't know all of the nomenclature that comes with those systems, the smart mode is going to give us that step-by-step guide on how to do that process and how to program that key. We do have expert mode, so if you know all the systems and you know exactly what you're looking for, you can go into expert mode and go quick and dirty right into that car to be able to program those keys. We can do key generation, key learning, remote learning, along with immobilizer ECU reset and updation, and immobilizer ECU refresh, coding, backup, and restore. We can also do key read and write, and basic EEPROM functionality. So if you're new to the key world and you don't know what EEPROM is electronically erasable, programmable, read-only memory. And that is really where we go right to the chip, right to that circuit, right to that component to be able to pull that information out. So the IM508 is limited in that functionality. The IM508 comes with the tablet and the power supply, the XP400, which is actually our key programming device. That's where we would stick the key in to be able to do the programming session. It does have some basic OE connectors and some EEPROM functionality like I was talking about before. It's very basic, but it does have some. So who is the IM508 right for? Well, remember, it does have limited diagnostics. So if you're not looking for more diagnostics, but you're looking for another key programming tool to add more Asian and domestic coverage to your arsenal, the IM508 is perfect for that. As long as you're not doing a lot of European coverage, this will be a perfect tool right out of the box for you. If you want to add European coverage to your IM508, we can do that as well. And like I said, I'll show you that here as we progress in the slides. Or if you already own a professional level diagnostics tool and you wanted to add key programming, the IM508 is perfect for you as well, because you can use your professional level scan tool to do any coding or initialization or memory relearns that we need to do on the diagnostic side, plus gives you the key programming ability after a module is replaced. So the next step up from the IM508 is going to be the IM608. The IM608 is based on the MS908S chassis from Autel, and that is a complete diagnostic tool. That gives us the ability to do Asian domestic and European coverage when it comes to diagnostics. It gives us the ability to do VIN writes, active tests, special functions, and module syncs all from that one device. So even before we program the keys, we can scan that complete vehicle, make sure all the modules are communicating, and if the shop that we're working with has replaced a module, we can make modules talk to each other with this tablet. But we also add all the key programming functionalities for our European cars, and that includes all the coverage we had in the IM508 plus more. So we can do the Mercedes-Benz 3rd generation, BMW FEM and BDC, CAS 2, 3, 4, Volkswagen MQB, Audi, and more, along with our Mercedes-Benz infrared keys, all from that one device. Now the IM608 comes with all the connectors that you see here. It does have the connections for in-circuit and out-of-circuit connection to be able to read our components and read our chips directly from the board, or to remove them and solder them to an external board to be able to read that information. So how does the Pro stack up to the IM608? Well, we have all the same functions as the IM608, and it actually comes with the same tablet and the same J2534 device. But here is the difference. The difference is in the XP400. The XP400 now becomes an XP400 Pro. Now, it looks the same on the outside, but there's a whole lot of different going on the inside. There's been a lot of changes and a lot of upgrades to the circuitry and the chips and the components and the wiring inside that XP400 Pro. So with the addition of the XP400 Pro, now we can do BMW EWS3, Mercedes-Benz W209, NEC, and a tremendous addition when it comes to reading our components and our chips. Over 60 new chip types and over 440 total. We added MCU chips, we've added odometer, we've added engine ECU, immobilizer, added the ability to do Land Rover and Jaguar, Volvo Smart Keys, and one of the newest updates is Toyota 4C that is coming to a tool near you. So we've added a lot of functionality by adding that XP400 Pro. And that XP400 Pro really is the secret sauce to this whole equation. The XP400 Pro comes with the IM608 Pro, or you can buy it independently, which I'll show you here in a second. And it has the Mercedes-Benz infrared key and MCU, EEPROM, and all the adapters that come with it. But you already own an IM tool and you don't want to spend the money on a new one. I know, I get it. And we wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. We wanted to make sure that you could get the new functionality of the IM608 Pro without having to go back and buy a brand new tool. If you just bought an IM608, there's no problem. We thought of a solution for that as well. So the XP400 Pro can be added to your IM508 and your IM608. That's right, this can be added to your IM508 to add all the European coverage plus all of the new European coverage that we just talked about with the IM608 Pro. This can be added to your IM608 to become a Pro, and that gives you all that same functionality. So with that one little device added to your tool, you now have all the same functionality as a brand new tool. Now, the IM608 and the IM608 Pro are going to be running on the exact same tablet and going to be running on the exact same software. So if you are an IM608 owner and you get an indication that you have to have a hardware upgrade, that is why. You're trying to do something that the old XP400 is not able to do with its current chipset, and the XP400 Pro can. So they're recommending on the tablet that you upgrade that to be able to do that functionality. So we add the ability even to the IM508 to new Mercedes-Benz infrared keys, to the EEPROM functionality, and the ability to add the key programming accessory set, or the KPA. And by adding the XP400 Pro to your IM608, you'll have the same functionality as the IM608 Pro. But did you catch Did you catch that? The KPA, Key Programming Accessory Set? Well, what's that all about? Good question. So, there's an additional accessory set now that Autel is offering for key programming and key renewal and key regeneration. So the IM, we call it a KPA, Key Programming Accessory set, allows the XP400 PRO to renew keys on BMW E chassis, OE 315 and 868. My goodness, there's a lot of numbers in there, remotes. And you can read through the rest, Audi and all that. So if we open up this box, you'll see that there are a bunch of little circuit boards in there. And each one has its own little slot to go into. And when we pull those circuit boards out, you'll see that there is a connection to be able to, come on, focus, there you go. There you can see that there's a connection that you'll be able to plug into the side of your XP400 PRO. Some of the boards and circuits will actually plug directly into the board on the XP400 PRO to add your chipset or your remotes for your renewal. So by adding this set with your XP400 PRO, you start adding a bunch more functionality, and that kit expands the functionality of your tool. So let's talk about the tool itself. If you're new to the Autel world, let's go through some of the details about what makes Autel a little bit different when it comes to the tools themselves. So the first thing we need to talk about is the connection piece. This is the XP400 PRO, and this can only connect to the accessories. This will never connect to the car. So whenever we're looking at the setup of the connections, the J2534 device will connect to the vehicle with the OBD2 cable. As you can see here, this is the correct setup connecting to the J2534. You would never connect the XP400 or the XP400 PRO directly to the car. These boxes are made with magic smoke. And if you plug this box directly into the car with the OBD2 port, you will let that magic smoke out. And once you let the magic smoke out, you can't put the magic smoke back in. So just be careful about how you're connecting it. Make sure you read your owner's manual if it's your first time using the tool, and make sure that you are connecting it correctly to the vehicle. So, providing the solution, there are two worlds that are colliding at a very rapid pace right now. The first world is your mechanic. And the mechanics that are sticking test lights in places that test lights aren't supposed to go, they're jamming it in circuits and trying to see if there's powers and grounds and just, you know, messing everything up. And then we have the key slingers, right? We have the locksmiths that have to come in and they have to save the day and try and fix all that. But both of those worlds are really combining now. No longer can we talk about a security system in an automotive car without talking about the network of the modules and all the other systems in the car. When we look at some vehicles, we can see that the security goes well past just the immobilizer box, into the dash, into the body control module, heck, even into the transmission control module. So security systems are going much broader in a car and in a vehicle to be able to program those keys. So even in the locksmith world, we have to be able to access that diagnostic side and make sure that the systems are all working together. The IM608 PRO really is that complete set to merge both worlds together, because it does have that complete diagnostics, the active test, special functions, and live data. We can see anything the computer can see. We can control anything the computer can control with this scan tool. Plus we have the complete key programming side of the world, and that's mainly done via the OBD side, but we can do the EEPROM as well. And here you can see that we have the IM608 PRO and the KPA set all together as one. So if you're the guy that says, I'm just slinging keys and I don't need no diagnostic tool, you are the guy that's fading into the past. Being able to do automotive locksmithing is now going to require more and more tooling and more information and more access to that vehicle. So make sure that you're staying current with the systems and the training on these systems. with the diagnostics side, we're going to talk about pre-scan and post-scan. So pre-scan, post-scan is something new to the world of locksmiths. And it's something that I highly encourage just to protect yourself. And what a pre-scan, post-scan is basically we're going to go in and we're going to scan that vehicle. Before we do anything, we're going to scan that vehicle for codes and issues. If we're just adding a key, or even if it's all keys lost, we want to try and scan for codes on that vehicle. And the reason being is because, first off, if we do a pre-scan and we get a whole list of codes, we can go back to that customer and say, Mr. Customer, I'm just letting you know, your car's got a lot of codes. And these have an effect on what I'm doing. I'm just telling you, Mr. Customer, that these are not my fault. Because we all know if we cut keys and we program to a car, anything that happens to that car from then on, it's your fault. Tire goes flat, it was a locksmith, right? So now we have a way to protect ourselves when we are programming keys for a shop or for a customer by doing that pre-scan. So we can do that pre-scan, we can get all the information and make sure we have all that prior documented before we do anything second. I got a call on my tech support line, and a guy was just mad as all get out because our tool couldn't program keys to a Toyota. And he was just ripping mad. Your stupid tool can't even program keys to a Toyota. Okay, Mr. Customer, question. Did you scan for codes before you went through this process? No, I didn't scan for codes. Why would I scan for codes? I'm a locksmith. I'm not a diagnostics guy. Well, just so you know, we went through on the tech support line, scanned for codes, and he had an antenna inside the car that was not responding. So on that specific Toyota, whenever you try and program a proximity key to that vehicle and it does not sense all the antennas, it will not program keys. He would have known that if he would have went through the pre-scan to make sure that the vehicle is ready to have keys programmed. So this gives us the ability to pre-scan a car to know what we're getting into. But also after we're done, we can do a post-scan. So after we're all complete, did we have to unplug anything? Did we have to change anything? Did we have to disconnect the battery for some reason? And did it set any codes? Now, whenever we're done programming keys to a vehicle, we can do a post-scan and make sure that all the codes are clear and put those two together and give those to the customer, saying, here's what you had before, here's what you had after, nothing, nothing. Thank you, Mr. Customer, I've done my job and your car's running. Thank you very much. So being able to do a pre-scan, post-scan is going to be something you're going to get more and more into as the industry progresses. Being able to do an all-system scan in that pre-scan, post-scan, to be able to talk to all those modules and to know what all those modules are seeing, thinking, and doing. Vehicle module communication, making sure that modules are talking to each other, making sure that everything is online through that process to make sure that everything on the network is communicating. Does that car have a network communication error? Is that going to cause an issue when you're trying to program keys? Vehicle antenna verification, like I was talking about on that Toyota. Module coding, so if we put a new module in, we got to make those two modules talk to each other. We got to make that body control module talk to the PCM, or make that instrument cluster talk to the body control module. We got to make those talk to each other, and we can do that with coding. And of course, the module syncs along that same idea. So let's take a look at the IM608 Pro and what it looks like. So here's our main screen for the IM608 Pro. You see you have your immobilizer, programming, diagnostics. These tools are super duper tough when it comes to update. You push the green button. And I'm going to tell you right now, these tools update about every week to every 2 weeks. And the number one call to my tech support line is, this function doesn't work. And did you update your tool? No. They update the tool and now it works. So keep your tool updated. It's as simple as pushing a button. So the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at diagnostics. So when we look at our diagnostic screen, we're going to go in and we're going to see the VIN up here in the top left corner. And what that is going to do, that's going to give us the ability to auto-detect that car. So we're going to select auto-detect. It's going to go in and start communicating with that car. It's going to ask information like year, make, model, VIN, engine size. It's going to try and get all the information it can out of that vehicle. Whenever we do that, it's going to list all that information, including VIN, year, make, and model, all that good stuff. From there, we can do an all system scan. Whenever we do an all system scan, it's going to go through every module and it's going to talk to it. It's going to say, are you here? And do you have any codes? From there, we can see any codes that are available by clicking on report. And that is also how we do our pre-scan and post-scan. We can select report, get all that information, and do a wireless print or email, your choosing, of that report out to the outside world. Whenever we're in the diagnostics, we can click on the little caret there on the right-hand side, and that will take us into live data. When we're in live data, we can change the way we see that information. So let's say we just need to see how many keys are programmed to this vehicle. No big deal. We can do that in a numerical sense. But if we have other issues that we're trying to help with a customer with or trying to decide, we can also change those to graph. We can graph merge, or we can change those to a dial or a bar graph. If we need to put multiple graphs on top of each other on one screen to be able to make sure that everything is syncing and everything is talking to each other. I'm not telling you to become a mechanic. I'm not telling you to become a diagnostician. I'm telling you that it's available if you get stuck and you need it. You have it on the Autel IM608 PRO. So let's go back to the main screen. And on the main screen, you're going to see immobilizer and programming. So programming is really where we're going to focus the EEPROM side of the world and doing our chips and components. We're going to go into immobilizer, and we're going to select immobilizer, and this is really where we're going to focus the majority of our time on the programming keys via OBD. We have the smart mode and manual mode that we talked about before, the system selection, ECU renewal. All those functions are going to be underneath the immobilizer icon. Whenever we select the immobilizer icon, it's going to come into a main screen. This particular one is on a Toyota, and you're going to see all the features and functions that you can do. One of the things that I would highly recommend if this is new to you and you're just getting started is to go down here to where it says Operate Guide. If we select on that Operate Guide icon, it's going to give us information about that vehicle. It's going to tell us what everything on that previous screen meant. What are the definitions of all those terms, and what do we do whenever we click on that term? We're going to give you precautions. Like on this one, for instance, on a Toyota, a learned master key is required for performing a key learn. All those precautions are going to be in there to give you the most information before you take the next step. And again, this is so you can make sure you know what you're doing or to talk to your customer to make sure that you have everything in place to be able to do that next step. When we cycle down, you're going to see more immobilizer information. You're going to see the chip number, key frequency, what type of key it is. This one in particular is a blade key, and the maximum number of keys supported. Whenever we look at like a Hyundai Kia, they have a maximum number of keys that's very low. So we want to make sure we know how many keys are programmed into that vehicle and what the maximum number of keys are to try and save ourselves some time and hassle. We're also going to show you what that key looks like to make sure that we're in the correct selection. So all that is built into that Operate Guide on the tool just to help you as a technician or as a locksmith to be able to do this part of the process if you're unfamiliar with that specific vehicle. All right, let's talk about accessories and how all these accessories tie together. So if you are the proud owner of an IM100 or an IM508, you can add the XP400 PRO to your IM508 or IM100 to be able to add all those EEPROM and European functionality. Then you can add on the KPA set to do the key programming accessories. If you have an IM608 or an IM600, same idea. You can add the XP400. Once you add that, then you can add the KPA to be able to add those extra functions. We're not going to brick your tool. It's not stop, do not pass go. It is just add an accessory to your tool to be able to add those extra functions if you want them. We also have a couple other accessories. One of those is the G-Box 2. This is mainly going to be used as a breakout box for your Mercedes, your BMWs, sometimes even our Toyotas. This makes our programming much, much faster when it comes to programming keys. It gives us the ability to pull out the DME and the DDE ISN. It gives us the ability to do some Volkswagens, all keys lost calculation much faster on Mercedes cars through that whole process. The second one is the APB112, and the APB112 is this little cute guy right here, and that gives us the ability to emulate the keys on a Toyota. So that is a key emulator, and that is for our 4D chips, and that will work with your XP400 or the XP400 PRO as well. Now, this is a new one that you're starting to see online as far as an accessory goes, and that is the all keys lost Toyota 8A blade key kit. Now, I struggled with this one because we have not found a use for it yet in the US market. But if you're out searching the old Google webs or living on the Facebook, you're going to see this come across. We are going to stock this, and it is going to be available in case customers come across that need it. But what we are seeing now, and from the locksmith community that I've talked with, this is not going to be required in the US because of our security systems. So just so you know it exists, don't call me and ask me about it because it's most likely not going to be needed in the US market, but we will have it, and you will be able to order it if you want to have one. So that is the Toyota 8A blade key all key lost kit. And that will be used with the APB112, and the G-Box 2 is also required for that set. Now, coverage. All right, Chad, you talked about the tools. You talked about what they do, what they don't do. What kind of coverage you got? Well, there's a couple different ways that we can get to coverage, and I'll show you that online first. So the first way to be able to see our coverage is by going to the Autel.com website. If you go to Autel.com, and on the drop down you'll see one that says support, and then vehicle coverage, you can choose your tool, whether it be an IM508, IM608, IM608 PRO. Once you choose your tool, then you can choose what brand and what specific model of vehicle you want to see. If you want to see all of them, you can see all of them. And then it'll tell you what we can do in that specific vehicle, whether it be all keys lost, whether it be add a key, whether it be erase all keys, mobilizer reset, all those functions. We're going to show you how to do that directly on that website. Now, if you're on your tool and you want to see what you can do or cannot do, you can go to Function Viewer down in the bottom left-hand corner. Did you see that? I just slid the screen to the side. No big deal. Slide the screen to the side. Function Viewer is right there. It is the same information as you're going to get from the website. It's just on an Android platform, so you can search it just a little bit easier and a little bit better. So all that information is already contained on the tool, and that is on the IM608, IM608 PRO, and on the IM508 as well. So I hope that helps. I hope that cleared up a little bit of the confusion around the new IM608 PRO. The IM608 PRO just adds more features, more functions, more benefits, and more functionality for your EEPROM world. With that new XP400 PRO, that gives you the ability to do that extra functionality. It's really built into this box right here.